Hi everybody, and thank you for coming out on this Jury November Day to find out more about the 2020 census. Our presenter today is Ann Williams, who is a partner specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau. Let's welcome Ann. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. The Census Bureau is grateful to the Senior Center in Winthrop for letting us be here today. And I'm going to start by showing you a 1 minute and 20-second video that encapsulates a lot of information about the census. So I understand that the sound is pretty loud, but I'm just going to start it and let you watch that, and then I'll start my other piece.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire, and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
Make sure you understand is just by being here today, you've become little ambassadors for the census. So you can feel free to share what I tell people today, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We want everyone to understand what the census is and what it is not. Okay. All right, so I'm Ann Williams. I work in about 15 different communities in Essex County and Suffolk County. I am the Winthrop Partnership Liaison to help people understand about the census, if there are questions, to answer questions, and to make sure that everybody is counted. How many people here have worked for the Census Bureau before? One person, yay! I'm sure you know that the Census Bureau is the largest provider of data for our nation about people, places, and economies. We do census taking on everything from housing starts and housing, important information about housing, to roads, transportation, school, and healthcare. And every 10 years, we do a decennial census. One of the reasons we do the decennial census is because it's mandated by the Constitution, and it started in 1790. But I want you also to know we also do other surveys. So there's a survey called the American Community Survey that we will still be sending out during this time. It's what we used to call the long form of the census, so it's a lot more information. The decennial census in 2020 is only a few simple questions, not very long at all. Now this also asks you to think about what you're going to be getting and hearing about the census, and it talks about fraud. And if you ever get information from a source that asks you for your social security number or your credit card information numbers or your bank account or money, then we want you to know that that is a fraud. That is fraud. That is not the U.S. Census Bureau. And you should let your public officials or your police station know that. And again, as you're here today, if you could share that information with people, if you hear a neighbor say, I got my census and they want me to send money, then you can tell them that is not the census. And they need to let people know that. So we want to count every resident in the United States and everyone once, only once, and in the right place. And in order to do that, we know that we're going to be counting about 330 million people. As I said, we do the census every 10 years because it's mandated by the Constitution. And it also gives us a lot of information about how we're going to have representation in Congress. So the numbers we count are critical to informing that decision. We also will be identifying how we're going to get over $675 billion from federal funding into our cities and states. So an accurate count is critical. An accurate count for programs like the Senior Center is critical because even 5 or 6 seniors can make a big difference. We want you to know that the census is safe. We say that it's safe, easy, and important. And it's safe because we have something called Title 13, which is a federal law that protects all of your personal information. So the Census Bureau cannot share your personal information. We can only share statistics. So we won't give your information to law enforcement, immigration, or the courts. Only the statistics is what we use. And every Census Bureau employee, enumerators, people that go out into the field, myself, all of the people that work for the census, are sworn to an oath of confidentiality for life. And that's very, very important. We have also been working to focus on cybersecurity and make sure that we have all the important firewalls in place to ensure that all the data that's collected is safe and secure. So again, we say it's easy, and it's easy in 2020 because it's the very first time we're going to be able to do our census online. So I'm just curious, would most of the people here feel comfortable doing the census online?
Yes.
The other way you can complete the census is over the phone. You can call and you can do the census on the phone. And the third way is to use the mail form. That would be the third way. It tells you here again that we'll never ask for Social Security or any of that other information. But it's very important to know. We will not email you and we will not call you. So you need to know that those are all the security measures we have in place. When you do your census in 2020, you can go online or use the phone in 13 different languages. And I think that's very exciting. And the languages here are Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. Is there anybody here who might use another language to complete their census?
Italian.
Italian, okay. Italian is on another list, which I'll tell you about. But the only 2 languages the form will be in is in Spanish and English. But you can go online and complete your census in these languages, or you can make a phone call and do it that way. This is small, so it's hard for you to see, but there are an additional, there are a total of 59 non-English languages that you can use that will have tip sheets online. And Italian is one of them. Albanian is one of them. And there's a whole bunch of languages that will be on there. So they'll have tip sheets and videos to help you know what the questions are asking. So let's talk about when this is all going to happen. So we are in the process now of preparing things, and we have our address lists getting ready to go. In mid-March of 2020, every household will receive a letter to complete the census. It doesn't go to a person, it goes to your housing unit. When you open that up, it will give you information that you can go online and can put in a locator number or your address to complete your census. You will not get the paper form right away. If you don't go online or call, after a couple of weeks, you're going to get a reminder that says, please complete your census online or on the phone. And if you still don't complete it, then you're going to get another letter that says, we'd like you to complete your census, please complete this mail form and send it back. If you still don't do that, then you're going to get a letter that says, we'd love you to go online or finish your census, and if we don't hear back from you, we'll be sending out a census taker or census enumerator. So we give people several opportunities to know that the census needs to be completed. And as you can see, it's mid-March to end of April. It's a very short time frame that we're asking people to do this. As I said before, we want people to know that the census is safe, easy, and important. And one of the other things we're doing is working with city clerks and town clerks to keep people informed about the census. You have your city or town census that you'll do in January, but you'll have the federal census that you'll do in March. Now I'm going to talk about the jobs that we have, and we have thousands of jobs that we are hiring for right now. And the importance of those jobs is that we can't really complete the census without these enumerators, the census takers. I want to show you this picture because it says we can be census takers. And in fact, you have to be 18 or over, but other than that, everybody's eligible. You do need to be a citizen or be eligible to work in the United States. Right now, you can go online to complete your application. Has anybody here done that? Okay. I have the website up here, but I also have information to give you about that, the website. Our recruiting goal for Massachusetts is 54,000 people. That's the recruiting goal. And once we get applicants, then we'll make decisions about who will be hired. And I just want to tell you too, you'll be working in your community. That's where the jobs would be. We're also looking for people who might serve as translators, and those will be on a case-by-case basis. But we do need people who can speak all those languages that we just showed you. So maybe you're not looking for a job, you're not in the process right now, but you might know someone here, Massachusetts or California or Hawaii or pick a state that is looking for a part-time flexible job. So feel free to encourage them to go online to apply to the census. So this is just talking about our key milestones. One of the other types of census taking that we'll do is our group quarters. Those will be things like assisted livings, well, I'm sorry, not assisted livings, they'll be independent, but nursing homes, hospitals, group homes, correctional facilities, homeless shelters, that kind of thing. I'd like to just talk about the complete count committee idea, and that is something that every community is eligible to do. At the census, what we hope happens is that communities engage together and do a complete count committee. And Winthrop is having a complete count committee, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more information about that. And that's very exciting. I'm very happy that Winthrop has decided to form a complete count committee. The idea with a committee is that it can engage all different groups, faith-based groups, your community service organizations, your public officials, your city offices, so that people are all getting the message that the census is happening and that they need to participate. This is just showing us the different phases of the census. We're already in the, close to the awareness phase. We're in the education phase, I guess. And one of the jobs of the Census Bureau with our partnership program, which is what I'm a part of, is to make sure that all of our census partners have the materials they need. So we have posters, we have videos, we have all sorts of resources that you can take about dropping into a newsletter or sharing a PSA, again, to keep people hearing the message. The Census Bureau designed and put together a program called ROAM. It's the Response Outreach Area Mapper. And as you can see on the map, the dark blue areas represent places where we know in the past it's been hard to count the people that are there. They're not going to self-respond easily. And so one of the things we try to do is look in communities to see where those hard to count groups might be. They're typically urban areas where there's a high number of renters. There are also places where there are new immigrant families or people who are speaking English as well as another language. And there are also typically children between the ages of birth and 5. A lot of people have not been putting down that age group. In 2010, they estimate about 1 million children were undercounted. So it's important to make sure that that 2-week-old is included, because they need to be on there. The census material and information we collect helps us gauge what we're going to do for the next 10 years. And this is just an example of the Rome mapper that highlights specific areas. It can show us things like the median age, the population. In this example, this is an example of somewhere in Boston. The low response score was 36.8. I checked Winthrop before I came, and Winthrop has very few low response areas, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't still be trying to get as much information as we can out to people. In particular, because, as I said before, even 6 seniors can make an impact in the numbers and how that helps support the senior center.
May I speak to that?
Yes.
If possible. So, just as a little story to speak to Ann's point, not this September, but last September, our kindergartners got to school in early September, and we realized that there wasn't enough classrooms for those kindergartners. And so the school asks me for a list in February or March for the children that will be school eligible in that fall, and we give them that list. Now, as we all know, folks move around and they may move from one community to another, but in the 15 years I've been here, I've never seen that many, so that we had to make another kindergarten classroom mid-year. So I don't know exactly how that happened, if we had a huge influx of children or families got bigger, but it happened.
Right.
And there was a financial impact to the school budget, but probably even bigger, there was an impact to the children. We didn't have enough teachers, we had to hire a teacher mid-year, kids got all switched around, and it was really difficult, as you can imagine, for a little 5-year-old to experience that transition. And so it really reminded me that I need to do as much as I can to work with you folks in our annual census and in the decennial census to make sure that all those little kids are getting counted, just as a story of like how it really does impact us locally. I'm sure there's a million
Yes.
examples, but that was
Yeah.
one that really hit home.
Yes. Oh,
to
thanks.
me. So I just wanted to
Thanks,
share
Carla.
that with
That's
you.
a great example of why it is so important. And before we talk about that, I did want to mention too that it's important to count yourself where you live most of the time. So in the Northeast, we have people who may go to a warmer climate in the winter. And if they're there for 3 months, they should still count themselves in Massachusetts if they live there most of the time. When they get their census in April, they may still be in Florida or North Carolina, but they need to use the address where they live most of the time, which would be Massachusetts. So that is important. Yes?
I have a question. What about where they file their taxes?
So that's a separate piece. So you file your taxes in one community or one state. That's if you live there most of the time, then that's probably what you should do. But if you live somewhere else most of the time, you really need to complete the census that says this is where I live most of the time. That gets back to our confidentiality, that we're not sharing information from the decennial census. We really want an accurate picture of where people live so that we can say we know what kind of infrastructure our Northeast cities need and state needs are to have roads that are fixed and health care and food support and housing support. So that's a great question, but you definitely count yourself where you live most of the time in the census. I wanted to end by letting you know about another great public service that the Census Bureau has. It's called our Data Dissemination Program. I'm sure Carla has used a lot of our data that's online. The website census.gov is the website that has a whole bunch of information about different data points. People use it for grant writing, for projecting where things will be in the future. It's critical that we have that kind of data. And this is a free program. If somebody really wanted to drill down into the data, they could work with this program and they would come out or talk to you on the phone about the kind of specifics that you're looking for. So now I'll just end with the fact that we have a social media campaign going on right now. We're starting to advertise for our jobs and for the census on social media, so Facebook ads and that kind of thing. As we get closer to 2020, we will start to have many more radio ads, television ads, newspaper. You'll start to see about the census in many places. So I hope that when you see that, you'll share that with your family, friends, community, and you'll let us know if you have questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Oh, we have a
I was just
question.
saying, I work a couple of days down in the seaport on Congress Ave. So there are tons and tons of condominiums going up. So how, that certain area, how would you calculate, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And there's so many millions
Yes.
of buildings.
So the question is, how do we calculate when new buildings are going up, especially in Boston or other areas when they're being built as we speak? My understanding is that if they can be occupied by April 1st, then we will be sending things to those addresses. If they won't be occupied by April 1st, all of our people who work, in the city will be working to figure out who those people or who those residents might be in terms of the volume of residents.
Just to speak to that, I think it's called the LUCA program.
Yes.
So, what's it called? LUCA, L-U-C-A, although I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head what that stands for, but we got contacted in the summer and then again in the early fall in regards to this LUCA program, and they were asking us what developments we knew about that were in construction. So we did it for Winthrop, I'm sure Boston and everybody else has it. So the city and town clerks are already telling the census people that this kind of stuff is in play. So they're already preparing, as you said,
Right.
to get ready for those residents.
There's buildings going up everywhere.
Right.
So the casino, the Encore.
Yes.
There's
Right.
tons of stuff going up around them.
So they're actually like a year in advance. They were contacting me in June
Yes.
for what was happening in the next
Okay.
year.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we recently completed our address canvassing, and that was, the LUCA program was part of collecting the addresses. So we would know where people's addresses were or housing units were, and that's how we do that. But you're right, there's a lot of building going on. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Is there any counting of Americans living abroad?
That's a fantastic question. Is there counting of Americans living abroad? I'm gonna ask that I get back to you on that because it's not a question I've had before. We wanna count people who live here, who are here in the States. So, I'm gonna have to find out the details, but really it's not like taxes, it's not like voting. It's, are you living here in the United States? Yes.
Well, going along with that, instead of just people who have decided to live in another country, and I know several, active military,
Yes,
are
there is.
they counted where their spouse and the children are?
That's another great question. There is a whole process for counting active military, depending on the group quarters, if they live on a base or where they might be living. It's very specific. But the website has a lot of information, census.gov. It really is a great resource and it has tabs on veterans, on active military, on the homeless population, counting all of those different groups.
Can I speak to that too, Ann?
Yes.
Maybe not through the census, but to answer maybe both of your questions. That data is normally or hopefully collected through UOCAVA voting. Again, off the top of my head, I can't remember what that stands for, but if you contact city and town clerks, we collect that data because those folks vote. So we can tell you how many US citizens that are voting, that are living abroad, and how many military folks are living somewhere else that are voting. So that that's being collected. You just might have to go through another channel to get it. But the phrase to Google or call me, it's called UOCAVA voting.
So Carla, when somebody has gotten their papers that they're being deployed at whatever time during the year, you would get that information?
I don't get their deployment. When somebody is overseas and they need to vote, they tell their commander or their
Oh, yeah,
manager,
because they wanted the absentee
and that is
ballot.
handled for them. It doesn't, you could be in the middle of the ocean, you could be on Mars. If you are a military person, you will vote. We do anything that we can to bend over backwards to get those military votes in. So I don't find out where they are, it's all handled above me. It's usually via email through the military, but we get those ballots. And now all that data is collected, there's lists and lists of who's voted and where those votes have come from.
Thanks, Carter. And
I
another
was thinking
question?
about college kids, sorry.
Yes.
Come for a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
College, that's a good question too, college students. So let's take college students in the US. If you're a US citizen and you're here in college, you'll be counted where you are on April 1st,
I see.
which is where you most likely will be college. If you're living at home, obviously you'd be counted at home. But we are going to be working with colleges and universities to do on-campus and off-campus census taking. If you're an international student, then you're not counted as a citizen, but you're counted as someone who's living off campus. So does that make sense? You'd be counted, but you would, when you fill out the census, they'll say that they don't say non-citizen, but they will be counted.
You keep using the word April 1st.
Yes.
So is that the way you're supposed to be if you're there April 1st? We get it in March.
Yeah, as soon as
Do you
you,
do it as April 1st?
You don't-
Or do you do it when you get it at that particular day?
right, so you, as soon as you get that
Because I
letter,
don't understand what you're talking about, April 1st.
yes. April 1st is the day we call Census Day, just as a date on the
But you can do
calendar.
it before,
You can do it as soon as you get the invitation.
Oh,
You
okay.
can go online and complete the census as
Okay.
soon as you get that.
because sometimes in these censuses, as of such and such date, how many
Yes.
people are in your house or anything like that.
That's right, and it will say that as of
Okay.
April 1st.
Oh, as of it,
Yes, but again, you can complete it when you get it.
okay.
And you can complete the census for whomever is living in your home, whether they're related to you or not. So a lot of people have fluid families, friends that stay with them. If those people are with you for most of the year, then you count them on your census.
Ian, could you speak to just a little bit for the folks that might be watching this tape, Title 13? I know you did touch on it, but a little bit more in depth in that folks need not worry if they have an apartment, let's say, with maybe only 2 or 3 bedrooms, but they may have extended family living with them, and the fears around that and why they
Yes.
should have no fear, and what Title 13
Yes.
means for you and for me, and then the people answering the census.
So Title 13 is the way that we are protected, all of us are protected when we are asked to complete our census, so that our personal information is not shared, as I said before, with law enforcement, immigration, or the courts, your landlord, your neighbors. It's not shared with anyone. So if you have people living with you, if you're renting and they're not on the lease, you need to put them down, because we need to get that accurate count, but we can't share that information. All we share are statistics, and the statistics we share are in broad enough areas, big enough areas, that people can't pinpoint that down to an individual or a family. Also, if you live in a place that's really not considered an apartment, so maybe it's a place that no one is supposed to be living, but that's where you live, you will need to complete your census if you get mail to that address. So it can be complicated, but again, I encourage people, if they have questions, to go to the website census.gov. There are lots of questions on there, there are tips on how to do things, and certainly then to work with the city or town clerk if they really have specific concerns. Thank you.